people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Mizuki Hiruta receives Ring Magazine title, will defend versus Gloria Gallardo, November 22nd. An active champion is a dangerous one. Mizuki Hiruta will make the 6th defense of her WBO World Junior Bantamweight title and second as Ring Magazine champion next month when she faces number 2 ranked contender Gloria Gallardo. On November 22nd, the pair will headline a Hollywood Fight Nights event at Thunder Studios in Long Beach, California, led by Tom Loeffler's 360 Promotions, and broadcast worldwide on UFC Fight Pass. Hiruta, 9-0 with 2 KOs, seeks to make history, joining pound-for-pound male star and Japanese compatriot Naoya Inoue as one of just 2 world champions with a 4-fight schedule this year, all of those being title defenses, in tandem with her being one of the few Japanese fighters that's held the Ring Magazine title.
Because there really haven't been that many.
She was officially presented with her championship belt by the Ring's editor-in-chief, Douglas Fisher, in the gym alongside Loeffler and head coach Manny Robles, promising to work even harder. After recent achievements, Mexico's Gallardo, 16-3 with 3 draws and 7 knockouts, meanwhile, returned to her winning ways with a 3rd-round stoppage win in March after a near shutout points loss by Irma Garcia when contesting for the IBF's world title back in December. Hiruta kicked off her year with an anticlimactic finish, 8 rounds into her defense against Gallardo's compatriot Maribel Ramirez on January 17th after flooring the 39-year-old in round 2. An accidental headbutt caused the challenger's cut to worsen, and they ultimately went to the scorecards with a technical decision scored. An impressive decision win over Argentina's Carla Marino in mid-May saw her scoop the vacant Ring Magazine title, a divisional first, which she defended against then unbeaten contender Naomi Cardenas on August 15th. She wants to stay very active, fight the best competition, and Gloria is one of Mexico's toughest female fighters, said Tom Loeffler, as his charge will naturally seek unification matchups after this. WBC belt holder Ashley Gonzalez hasn't fought this year. IBF champion Irma Garcia's plans are unclear, while Jasmine Artiga defended her WBA crown for the first time with a 3rd-round finish of Lynn Sandstorm back in August.
Given Mizuki Hiruta's natural attributes, her physical dimensions, her punching power, her athleticism, and the rate of her progress under the tutelage of Manny Robles, you could give her reasonable odds to beat any of the other 3 champions at this weight. It's just a question of getting her those fights. Can Tom Loeffler secure her a unification match with any of the other 3 champions at the weight? Because it would certainly be a bit more expensive than scheduling a Gloria Gallardo fight. Gloria Gallardo, who Mizuki will be facing before this year is out, and what will be Mizuki's 4th ring appearance this year. She's got the right idea, Mizuki Hiruta. The more often she fights, the better. The sharper she will be for it, the more she will derive, the more she will learn, because she already doesn't have that many professional bouts. The fight with Gloria will be just her 10th professional bout. Becoming a champion so early in one's career can be both a gift and a curse. It speaks to a fighter's ability, being able to win a world title in so few pro bouts, but the training wheels have to come off. Before you know it, you're in there with the Sharks. Gift and a curse.
Well, you must be good if you were able to win a title in such a short amount of time. Though winning a title in a short amount of time puts you under pressure, that before you know it, you're held to the same standard as fighters that might be a lot more experienced than you are.
And so the remedy is activity. The remedy for a fighter in that situation is an active schedule.
Get all the experience you can while you can. And so they've definitely got the right idea. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
I want all the smoke. I want smoke with Crawford. I want all the smoke. Give me the best. I'm in shape. I train. My lifestyle is on the move. Everything is great. So why the would I want the best, man? What y'all talking about, dog? I don't got time to be playing with none of these people with these promotionals and all of these shit. I'm with the old school boxing. If they gave me an offer for Crawford, and me and Crawford, I talked to him one time. I'm excited. I'm so. It'll be an honor to get in the ring with him, not just today, just because of what he done as becoming undisputed. He completed something that I didn't complete, and so being in the ring with Crawford would be amazing. I give him the best fight of today's era. I don't think that there's no other fight out there in the boxing world for Crawford to make right now. The best fight really would be me. The best fight with Boots is me.
My previous video, we already talked about a Charlo versus Crawford fight and why you can't expect that to happen. Charlo versus Boots, however.
Charlo versus Crawford is dead in the water, but Charlo versus Boots, if Boots is serious about coming back,
that might get people's attention. Jermell Charlo, for all of his faults, all of his drawback, would still be a better opponent choice than most of the choices that have been made on Boots' behalf during his time on Showtime and his time now on DAZN. Jermell Charlo, even now, would be a step up from the kind of guys that Boots has been fighting. Certainly a step up
from the last guy he fought.
Charlo versus Boots is not as cut and dry as some other fights stylistically. It's a little harder to envision, a little harder to imagine. Jermell Charlo is a little taller and a little longer than Jaron Ennis.
More battle-tested at this weight, certainly more battle-tested than Jaron Ennis, who really just arrived at junior middle, whereas Jermell spent the vast majority of his career at that weight.
At 154.
Jermell Charlo is a boxer puncher like Jaron Ennis is a boxer puncher. They actually share the same base style. There are some differences, some nuances between them, but they're both boxer punchers. So this matchup is not as cut and dry as some other matchups out there, and you could argue that Jaron Ennis would get more attention for fighting Jermell than fighting Abbas Baru.
Abbas Baru, newly crowned WBA champion. Boots Ennis has the interim title. Abbas Baru has the full one. But you could argue that fighting Jermell Charlo would move the needle a bit more than fighting Abbas Baru.
That move the needle with the Americans.
That when I think about Boots versus Charlo as a fight, there is some value there, and some residual value in the name of Jermell Charlo, who put on a flat performance against Canelo Alvarez 2 years ago when we last saw him, but Boots Ennis is no Canelo Alvarez.
I wouldn't turn my nose up at this fight if they tried to make it. I do think there's something to be gained in a Charlo fight for Boots Ennis, and like I said, Jermell, for all of his faults, would still be better than the vast majority of fighters that Boots has fought.
Majority? He'd be better than all of them. Jermell was an undisputed champion after all. He didn't lose those belts at 154. He gave them up.
Now for the rain clouds.
The caveats. I am still highly skeptical about Jermell Charlo returning to 154 2 years removed from the sport and 3 years removed from this division. In his mid-30s, I'm skeptical as to whether or not he can actually make 154. He says he stays in the gym. He says that he's fit and ready to go.
Then where the fuck is he?
He's been on a 2-year hiatus, a 2-year vacation since he made all that money with Canelo Alvarez. You take the year off, that's fine, but he should have come back by now. He's not doing himself no favors sitting out for this long. And that in and of itself makes a Boots fight harder to make.
Charlo makes it harder on himself, because you're still over there on PBC Island when you should migrate somewhere else.
You really ought to go somewhere else. They ain't doing but 5 or 6 shows a year, if they're lucky at this point. They ain't got that many fight dates to accommodate a fighter like you. Want to fight a Boots Ennis off a loss and 2 years of inactivity, one would think you get a tune-up fight beforehand. You get a tune-up fight in between.
Go to Eddie.
And if it's just about staying busy, if it's just about getting a little layup fight, go to Pro Box.
What is the problem? Guys like Jermell Charlo and Demetrius Andrade, these fighters that have been inactive a while, They think they're too good for pro box.
Their financial demands far exceed what pro box can give them, even if it's just about getting a little stay busy fight, a warm-up fight before something bigger. Their financial demands.
Oh, forget it.
It's one of two caveats right then and there. And then there's, what would Jermell want for a Boots fight? What kind of money? I think Charlo versus Boots in America would move the needle more than some of Boots' other fights. But this is all relatively speaking because Jermell was never that big a draw.
If everybody's realistic, you can make the fight, but that's the problem with American fighters. They're seldom ever realistic about the money.
What would it cost Eddie Hearn? What would it cost Matchroom to put that fight together? Or is it that Jermell has another financier in mind? He's hoping he can get a Saudi bag for Boots.
Oh, he's hoping Turkey can pay for it.
It's down to Turkey putting together a fight for Boots. I would think that Turkey has other people in mind besides a quasi-retired Jermell Charlo.
If it's down to him.
Jermell Charlo is presumptuous enough to think that anybody's going to fast-track him to a meaningful fight off a loss and 2 years of inactivity. He is sorely mistaken. The fight is viable if he's willing to be realistic, but American fighters oftentimes...
When are they realistic?
To see the pattern? Between a Demetrius Andrade, between a Jermell Charlo, these guys are seriously expecting someone to fast-track them to a meaningful fight, likely for a lot of money.
They rather sit out doing nothing, waiting for that to happen.
So yeah, I can see the value in Boots versus Charlo as a fight. The old lion versus the new one, the young lion.
Wouldn't be a bad fight if they could put it together, but putting it together is the problem.
Well, who do you think would win?
Imagining a fight like that under these circumstances already comes with some drawbacks for Jermell Charlo, who would be the older fighter in the fight, the less active fighter in the fight. Tail of the tape, he's a bit taller than Jaron Ennis and a bit longer.
You have to wonder what boiling down to 154 would do to what remains of his power. So physically, Jaron Ennis would have a lot of advantages here, that he's the younger, fresher fighter, likely the faster fighter, albeit not more experienced. Not more experienced than Jermell.
If Jermell has anything working for him in a fight like this one, it would be experience.
Though without a tune-up, it's hard to say what kind of odds you could give him. He didn't just entertain a fight with Terrence Crawford, and he didn't just entertain a fight with Jaron Ennis. He also entertained a fight with his PBC stablemate and fellow Texan, Errol Spence Jr., who has yet to come back from the beating he suffered at the hands of Terrence Crawford. Jermell said, "I honestly think Errol Spence Jr. is a good fight. I don't have no issue with Errol. I just believe that I don't know what's happening with the boxing world. Like right after my era with the Canelo shit, like I started to watch boxing change, and I got my little distance, and I thought it was important for me to focus strictly on my family and my kids and my life and my future, and I got hella MS because I was knocking those guys out before they were even boxing. I'm in my third generation of boxing. I was fighting when Mayweather was fighting. I was fighting when De La Hoya was fighting. I fought on Bernard Hopkins' undercard. I don't know if there's too many of us left."
Charlo versus Spence, in theory, should be an easy enough fight to make because they're both coming off of losses and they've both been out about the same amount of time, roughly 2 years and counting.
They're both on the same side of the street, so theoretically, it should be an easy enough fight to make.
Jermell Charlo claims that in his time away, he's watched the sport change, when in reality, it's been changing long before he took that 2-year hiatus. It's been changing ever since the Mayweather era.
At least when it comes to American fighters, if you look at the Brits, they're still fighting and still willing to fight. The same applies to the Asian fighters like it applies to the Mexican fighters. It's actually the Americans. They're the ones that changed.
Boxing didn't actually change. It's just the mentality of the average American fighter, the average American boxer. That's what's different. There is a direct correlation between that change and the end of the Mayweather era. Floyd Mayweather may have been very successful in his own career, but in a lot of ways, he set a bad example for the generation that followed him, since all of them
They're trying to emulate him. They're trying to emulate Floyd without Floyd Mayweather's ability, without Floyd Mayweather's work ethic. Where Floyd is different than the guys that try to be like him in this era is he was a gym rat. He never ballooned in weight in between fights.
He didn't take drugs, opiates, he didn't drink alcohol.
So what you're seeing is a lot of half-ass attempts to emulate Floyd Mayweather's success without Floyd Mayweather's work ethic, and thus today's fighter,
Today's American boxer,
they want to be strategic like Floyd was strategic. They want to be paid like Floyd Mayweather was paid, but they don't want to put in the work.
and without that, it's all for nothing.
That key ingredient. Elsewhere in the junior middleweight division, Mike Coppinger has reported that Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman will be part of a Manny Pacquiao undercard in late January. Pacquiao has said he will fight on January 24th in Las Vegas, though that date could be pushed back by a week, according to Mike Coppinger.
This is intended to be the latest news on Sebastian Fundora and Keith Thurman tied to Manny Pacquiao's next ring appearance, except that there are conflicting reports stating Manny could be talking to Top Rank about doing some business with them and going back with them, and one would think that if Manny does any business with Top Rank, it's not going to be PBC fighters on the undercard, it would be top-ranked fighters on the undercard.
That if Keith and Sebastian are relying on Manny to be the anchor for their fight
For weeks and months now, it was thought that Manny Pacquiao would be challenging Rolly Romero for his newly obtained WBA title, up until an order came down last week ordering Rolly to fight as mandatory.
to fight Shakram Giasov.
The whole point of doing Rolly versus Manny was to give Manny a chance to fight for Rolly's belt. And without that belt, well, there's no point in making the fight. For Rolly to keep it, he's got to fight Shakram.
Got to fight Giasov.
So Rolly versus Manny may be dead in the water. What else can the PBC offer Manny besides Rolly? There is a rematch with Mario Barrios. They could see about doing that for Mario's WBC title. He still has it, and he's not under orders to fight anybody, but of course,
Manny didn't sell shit with Mario. That pay-per-view didn't do nothing. It didn't move the needle. So what would a rematch do?
more nothing.
And those are the only options the PBC had left for Manny. Fight with Mario and a fight with Rolly. Both of which ain't that marketable anyway. Listen, Manny Pacquiao is one of the legends of the sport.
One of the most accomplished fighters in the sport. But the idea that people still want to see him box at 47 years old and against these kinds of fighters?
They don't. Manny is not the draw that he once was. And this is who Sebastian and Keith are relying on to help reschedule their fight.
Want to come back on Manny's undercard.
Oh, that's what I figured when the fight got postponed. That if this gets rescheduled, it won't be a main event like it was before. The most that they can hope to do is attach it to something else, something bigger.
This is bigger.
Look, they're just doing what they can over there, man. And that's not a lot. With Benavidez off to Saudi and Gervonta Davis off to Netflix.
Trying their best to keep their heads above water as best as they can, relying on a 47-year-old Manny Pacquiao to kick off the coming calendar year.
Reeks of desperation and hard times. But that's the story. They want Fundora versus Thurman to be the chief support for Manny's next fight, assuming Manny comes back with the PBC.
We'll see if he does.